So welcome to 16.3, parallel lines cut by a transversal. So we're going to fill in the missing angles here. Now, you can do this based on what you learned the last 2 days. Just look at the top of that picture, right? That picture looks exactly like what we've been doing. B is vertical to the 65-degree angle, right? It's back to back, so it must be congruent the same. A and C are adjacent to it along a straight line, so they must add up to 180. And so they must be 115 degrees, right? And notice each pair, adjacent pair, adds up to 180. Now, the bottom is exactly the same, right? This is 65. H is vertical. It's also 65. E and G are just like A and C, so they're also 115 degrees. Now, this line that we're shading in blue here is called a transversal. A transversal is simply a line that crosses two or more other lines, okay? And in this case, this is a special case because this transversal was crossing two parallel lines. And when you have a transversal that's crossing two parallel lines, you get this repeating pattern, right? Those exact same numbers twice there. If I drew another parallel line down here, I would get the exact same numbers again. And if I get the same exact numbers, they must be parallel. So we're going to go over that today. So parallel lines cut or crossed by a transversal is what we're doing. So the transversal is this line. It's the line crossing. And so that's right, crossing, it crosses or cuts at those two locations. And we're going to call this line EF. That's how you write the name of a line. It's a picture. The symbol for a line is a picture of a line. And you use the letters in either order. You could call it line FE. So notice, once again, it's FE again, same answer. It's just angled slightly different. But line AB and CD, they look parallel to you. Hopefully, to me they do. And they're being crossed or cut by a transversal, another line. When parallel lines are crossed by a transversal, the corresponding angles are congruent. Now, the word corresponding in math means matching. I wish we would just say matching angles and everyone would get it right. But when we say corresponding, we mean matching. So we're going to identify the corresponding angles. So what is in the same spot down here as A? Well, E is. A and E are corresponding. All right, fill in the rest of them, please. Pause. So B is in the same location as F. C is in the same location as G. It's corresponding. And D is in the same location as H. They're corresponding. And what that means is A and E will have the same measurement, same degrees. B and F will be the same as each other, and so on. Their corresponding angles are congruent. The math word for the same size and shape is congruent. So you're going to find the measure of all the missing angles in this picture. Well, C is vertical to A, so they're the same. C and G are corresponding, so they're the same. A and E are corresponding, so they're the same. All of those are 50 degrees. Some because they're corresponding and some because they're vertical. Now the rest of them, right, the only other possibility is adding up to 180. So the rest of them are all 130. Right? B and D are adjacent along this straight line to A, and they are vertical to each other. B is also corresponding to F, and D is corresponding to H. And H and F are also vertical, so they all have to be the same. And these pictures always fill in exactly the same way. Think about what this line is called. It's called a transversal. Now this only happens when they're parallel. So I ignored those little symbols. That's the symbol for parallel in geometry class. All right. Those little arrows are indicating that those lines are parallel. If I take two other lines and cross them with a transversal, these angles are no longer corresponding. They're not the same size. It's only the same size when they're parallel. So fill in the picture. So A is vertical. W is corresponding to A, right? They're in the same location, corresponding. U is corresponding to Y. The rest are going to be adjacent along a straight line. So 180 minus 105, 75 degrees. Let's just use colors. So X and Z are both 75 degrees. And V and T are both 75 degrees. There's our symbol for parallel. So which is the transversal? The transversal is the one I just outlined in green. So all you have to do is, you don't have to find all of them. You just find the measure of angle A. That's how you say that, angle A. So A is way over here. There's a lot of ways to do it. Well, Y here is in the same spot as this 114, so they are corresponding, right? And Y and A are vertical to each other, so A has to be 114 degrees. You also could have done it other ways, right? W is vertical to the 114, and W and A are corresponding. That's not a decimal point. All right, so this weird picture is the same idea. So here's our transversal. They're the parallel line symbols. So H here is 114. What are we trying to find? We're trying to find A again. All right. D here is 114. All right, but A is not 114, right? Because A here is along this straight line. So A is supplementary, right? It adds up to 180. So we're going to borrow. And I'm getting 66 degrees for A. Make sure in your homework you read. Sometimes you have to fill in all of them. And sometimes you just have to find one or two other angles. Don't waste your time. And again, you could have gotten there other ways, right? B is 114 because of corresponding angles. That's a 114. So A is still 66. Fill in all the angles with the same measure as A. All right, so find all the angles with the same measure as A. So, well, we know C because it's vertical. E, so I'm going to write I want you to write the reason as well. So C because it's vertical, because you're going to have to do this on the test. So C because it's vertical. E because it's corresponding. Right? And so G because it's, you could say vertical to E, or you could say because it's corresponding to C. You could give either reason. You don't have to give both. But those are the ones that are the same measure. Same thing here. So Y, because it's vertical to A. I should say vertical to A. This was corresponding to C. U, because it is corresponding to Y. and then W, because it's corresponding to A. And notice I could have given a different reason. I could have given it as vertical to U, but I'm given a reason for each. All right, so now we're going to find the measure of X. So we know if they were next to each other, right, they would add up to 180. Well, 3x, this one over here has to be 3x because those two angles are corresponding. They're the same size, congruent. So that one's 3x as well, and 3x plus 6x must add up to 180. So we get 9x equals 180, divide by 9, x equals 20 degrees. Try the next one. That and that are corresponding. So we're along a straight line. So the same measure as B. When a transversal crosses lines, they don't have to be parallel. They have to be parallel if we want all those patterns. See you tomorrow.